We are live.
Live. All right, Steve. Wait, no, this is the wrong day. We're wearing the wrong shirts, but let's show them off anyway. One, two, three. Stand. Woo! But it's not yet. It's not the anniversary yet.
Yeah, we still got a week about.
Yeah. Next week is when we're going to do the, that's when we're going to be all excited and stuff. So not this week. But Sandy, you'll still be here.
Wait a minute. But we won't be.
No, we'll be here in a week.
Oh, it's the following week.
Okay. Yeah, it's a week and a half till we go to Kyle's.
Got it.
Oh, all you won't be here, Sandy. Sandy, how could you?
So Zoe, I misinformed you. We will be here next week.
Yeah, the following week we won't be. Standing ovation. Yes, we gave ourselves a standing ovation. Oh, Sandy, you got to figure out. So where will you be at 5 p.m. Pacific time next week?
Maybe just get on a...
Or maybe you don't want to say.
Yeah.
Video unavailable with restricted mode enabled.
Video of this podcast on YouTube?
Oh, on a boat in the St. Lawrence Seaway. They have cellular service, Sandy.
Sure they do.
On your website. Okay, is anybody else watching podfeed.com? Did Steve mess up or is John being slow?
It could be me.
Sandy sees it on the website. You'll be in LA this time next week? I
see it too.
Kevin?
I'm not sure
you'll be
what's going
here
on there, John. Maybe
just kidding.
This is seen as adult content there in Alabama. It's restricted.
It's a left-wing show. Is that what it is? Try a different browser?
That's usually like a parental control, isn't it?
It's the red light, Sandy says. That's probably what it is. There is no adult content in Alabama. Well, John's pretty childish, so that kind of works, I think. Right? All right. Well, I think, let's see. I've done an audio check. I think it's probably time to get started.
And you did do roll call? I missed it.
I did not do roll call. Nobody said roll call.
Roll call.
How am I supposed to do roll call if nobody tells me? All right, fine. Let's see. I've got Seamus and Kevin. Oh, Doc Tim just snuck in. Doc Tim, are you going to be at MacStock? Hope so. And Marty, and I'll see Marty at MacStock, and Mike, and Mr. Ed, and John, and Sandy, and Steve, and Zoe.
Anyone else in the sidebar we may have missed who is out there?
They wouldn't be able to hear us, you said. If
not in live show. Well, that's true. But, well, no, they could. They could if they're watching the video.
Do you guys remember BJ? I think it's like Wajlund, something like Wajlund. He used to come to the live show a long time ago, and he commented on something on Facebook the other day. It was kind of funny. He was a kid when we first met him. I think like he was in high school or college, early college, and so he's like a whole grow up, you know.
I grew up.
All right. Oh, I'm testing out a new bumper today. We'll see if I get the nerve to use it. All right. Let's go. Hi, this is Allison Sheridan of the NosillaCast podcast, hosted at podfeed.com, a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias. Today is Sunday, May 4th, 2025, and this is show number 1043. Well, the 20th anniversary of the NosillaCast is on the event horizon. For those who can spare the time, we'll be celebrating it during the live show on Sunday, May 11th, at, of course, 5 p.m. Pacific time, so be sure to come with your party streamers and noisemakers to podfeed.com/live. And if you haven't just yet bought your 20th anniversary NosillaCast shirt, head on over to podfeed.com/shop to get yours today. I put a photo of me and Steve wearing our new vintage navy and vintage black shirts. I love them so much, and many thanks to Alistair for helping me noodle out the design. One of the reasons I put the picture in is because navy, I would really call it like a dark gray, or like a gray more. Maybe it's like a bluish gray, but it's a really pretty color anyway. All right. Oh, I should save, it says.
Yes.
That's a way to go. Nope, that's the wrong name. NCF.
Apple Midnight. Because all the colors Apple has for the Pro devices are shades of gray.
Yeah, that's probably it. Okay, let's see how this. See if anybody recognizes this. Let's see. I got to do a chapter mark, and I got to remember which application I'm in. Chapter marks in ScreenFlow are escape, but it's Command Shift Return. In did I do the link? Yeah, I did the wrong thing. It's different. 2 different keystrokes. All right, let me see this again. Copy link. No, not copy link. Copy the text. All right, now copy link. I'll get it eventually.
Ooh, a little rusty.
Yeah. Get one of their shirts in long sleeve. Yeah. Did we do long sleeve options?
I don't
If not, we
recall
should.
doing that. Yeah.
What's
we
that?
should. We should. I don't think we did, though. Oh,
Yeah.
we
I'll
did,
take a look at
Kevin?
that.
Kevin says yes.
Oh, okay. All right, listen to this. Like a bluish gray, but it's a really pretty color anyway. Anybody recognize what that sound is? Don't say it, Steve. Yeah, but I told you what it would be.
Oh, I knew.
I bet John's going to know. If anybody, it's going to be John. Oh, Jill has an excused absence, by the way.
Good.
In writing per regulations. Nope, nobody knows?
Interesting.
So you think I should do it?
You dropped a hint, and I don't think you even knew it
Did I?
in the intro.
Oh, you want to hear it again?
You mentioned...
Did I? Okay, here we go.
you mentioned in the intro Event Horizon.
I did. That is a
I think
good
that was
hint.
an unintentional hint.
Sounds more like one of those things you do with your mouth, right? Sounds like an O-scope. Oh, it's interesting. I think I'm going to use it for Bart's this talk here.
Are you just going to leave him hanging?
Yep. Nope. Here you go. Here's your third time. Well, last week on Security Bits, you heard Bart explain how today's digital computers and quantum computers are fundamentally different in how they work. From there, he talked about how an algorithm has already been developed and approved by NIST that will still allow us to have cryptography to encrypt our sensitive data. I thought it was such a great explanation that I decided to publish it as a standalone Chit Chat Across the Pond as well. I wanted to be able to point people directly to the conversation rather than saying, scroll to 42 minutes into the NosillaCast. It's really hard and everything. So I put a link in the show notes to that new episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond. And of course, in that episode, it links to the full Security Bits show notes so people can read along. Now you can send it to all of your friends. Okay, nobody knows that sound. I'm disappointed. All right, I'm going to go back to the regular bumper. Wait, that looks funny. Well, that was weird. Okay. I'm going to start with only cat. Okay. I'm actually going to talk a little bit at the beginning. Well, this next CES interview is one that I really think after you listen, you're going to want to go back and watch the video because there's something going on in video behind me while I'm trying to do the interview with this guy. And it's hilarious and awesome and kind of frightening. But you'll get the idea when you listen to this, but go watch the video because it's pretty crazy. So this is, we gave you a big hint. I think we might be nerdier than we realize, Steve. You didn't say that out loud, by the way.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, we are nerdier than we realize. Do you guys want to know? Everybody wants to know?
Let's give him a hint.
It's when two things sort of ran into each other. Two really heavy things.
Far apart, and they got closer and closer and merged. Merge.
Everybody merge.
And they did so very fast at the end. That's why the sound goes up.
That's
so
right. Quickly. Is that a big enough hint?
My marriage.
My marriage.
Well, I can't speak for that, but That's not it.
Well, I will give him a hint of what's going on in this interview. It's a cat door that it's called Only Cat, and it only allows cats to come in. So if the AI in it recognizes something other than a cat, that other thing can't come in. And the video, Kevin just got it. Well, it's not quite the Large Hadron Collider. No, that's not it. But you're on the right track.
Well, I think Ed got it really first.
Oh, did Ed say it? Something getting sucked into...
It's actually two black holes getting sucked into each other.
And they cause a gravitational wave. And that's the sound of the gravitational wave moved into frequencies that we can hear from the gravitational wave doesn't really make sound, but moved into audio frequencies and filtered so that we could sort of understand what it would be like.
So it was detected by the gravitational wave detector 2 years ago.
LIGO. LIGO.
Yeah. Long interferometric gravitational wave detector. I don't know, something like that.
If nothing else, it'll make Bart laugh when he hears it. Okay, let me see how this sounds. Go watch the video because it's pretty crazy. We're standing in a booth right now. So the punchline at the end of that is the kinds of things the cats are bringing in are like rats and birds and just all kinds of hideous things they're bringing in the background.
So if you go to that link I put up for the Only Cat videos, on their front page, they show all the videos that Allison was seeing as she's doing this interview in the background.
Trying to keep
dead birds and lizards, and some of them are alive too.
Yeah, some of them are still alive. It was pretty gruesome. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, you could certainly hear how distracted I was during that interview. And again, go check out the video because it's pretty crazy. Oh, did you hear that?
No.
That was a bubble popping in my water.
Now,
all right,
everyone needs to buckle in.
Oh, yeah, I'm actually going to talk here.
Yeah, for quite a while.
17 minutes, I think, is the estimate.
This is one of your longer ones. Although there are a lot of photos in this too,
but it's awesome, right?
Yeah. I think I like your tech and travel things.
Yeah. And where's the? All right, Tech on Travel, the Japan edition. All right. Okay, here we go. Whenever Steve and I take a major trip to a foreign country, I like to reflect on what we learned from a tech perspective. I didn't expect to have many observations about tech in Japan, but it turns out there's a lot to talk about. Our trip was on a tour by a company called Odysseys Unlimited, organized by UCLA Alumni Travel. It was a relatively small group with only 24 travelers and one guide named EK. On most of the trips we've been on, I find it enjoyable when people realize I know a lot about Apple products and they line up to ask me questions. Oddly, that pretty much didn't happen very much at all on this trip, which was, to be honest, it was kind of sad. One exception occurred when we went to the Hiroshima Peace Museum. At the entrance, there was a tall apparatus that had 2 digital clock displays. The top one said number of days since the first dropping of the atomic bomb, and the second one said number of days since the last nuclear test. Every person walking in was compelled to take a photo of the clocks. However, the LED displays of the number of days were refreshing at a rate that was out of sync with the shutter speed of the camera. That meant that every single photo they took had half of the digits of the clock displays missing. Our friend Mike asked me, why is this happening and how could he fix it? I immediately knew the solution. I had him turn on live photos and retake the photo while making sure to hold the camera very still. I then instructed him to view the photo, tap on the word live in the upper left to reveal the drop-down, and then select long exposure. Actually, no. I did it differently in the, I had him turn on live photos and retake the photo while making sure to hold the camera very still. I then instructed him to view the photo, tap on the word live to reveal the drop-down, and then select long exposure. Immediately, his photo zoomed in a little bit and then showed the number of days clearly. I was very proud of myself, but even more delighted that a group formed a line behind Mike, each person asking me to help them fix their photos. In case you're wondering, while we were there, it had been 29,111 days since the atomic bomb was dropped, but only 340 days since the last nuclear test. Now, I knew that Mike would need to enable live photos because of a question he'd asked me earlier. On the bus a few days before, he'd asked me how to permanently stop his iPhone from taking live photos. I explained some of the advantages of live photos, like making nice, smeary waterfall photos, but he was adamant that he wanted it off. He finally explained the problem. He has an iPhone, but he downloads his photos to a PC. Windows breaks live photos into a JPEG and a sidecar movie file, which he finds really annoying. I sympathized with him and I showed him how to control it. In Settings, Camera, Formats, you can change it from High Efficiency to Most Compatible. Under that setting, it explains that Most Compatible will use JPEG as the format. So I guess one person appreciated my knowledge. Let's talk about toilets now. Probably the most interesting tech difference we observed in Japan was in toilet tech. As you probably know, the Japanese are quite fond of the bidet type of toilet, or as EK playfully dubbed them, shower toilets. EK also called bathrooms the happy place. I'll be adopting that convention from now on. What surprised me was that nearly every happy place we visited had shower toilets. They were in hotels, shopping malls, train stations, and there was even a happy place out in the woods on a hiking trail that had a shower toilet. The other thing that surprised me was that about 80% of them had heated seats. Now, I get why a heated toilet seat is quite comforting, especially on a cold morning, but you didn't have to turn on the heater. They were already hot. Wait, that's not what I want. Now, Actually, I should get that number. What was it? $1.77 billion, I think. Yeah, I think. Now, I get why a heated toilet seat can be quite comforting, especially... Nope, you're not recording. Now I get why a heated toilet seat is quite comforting, especially on a cold morning. But in Japan, you don't have to turn them on. They were already hot when you sat down. Now think about the amount of energy that's being wasted right now by all those toilet seats being heated while no one's tushy is getting the benefit of that heat. I asked ChatGPT to do some research for me and help me do some math to figure out probably on average how much money is being wasted by toilet seats all being heated right now in Japan. And it was about 1.77 billion US dollars per year is being spent on energy to keep, say, half of those toilets still being heated right now. Now, if Japan used primarily renewable energy, it wouldn't have bothered me so much. But only 26% of their energy generation is from renewable sources. They have a lot of geothermal available, but the mineral bath folks have blocked the use of this valuable energy source because without any science to back it up, they think that their mineral baths will disappear if they use geothermal energy. But anyway, back to the fun of these shower toilets. Both of them had 3-ish buttons, 2 buttons to turn on the jet in 2 different directions, and 1 to stop the joy. Discovery of the flush button was a continuing adventure as no 2 toilets had it in the same place. There were electronic buttons, levers, twisty knobs, and even quite a few that flushed automatically. Now, some of the shower toilets were even more complex than others. In one, I found there was a little door I could open that revealed like 20 different buttons. As they were all labeled in Japanese, I chose not to experiment with those buttons. Amid all these high-tech toilets, I was surprised to find what I would call squat toilets. They were a small rectangular trough mounted onto the floor and Is this getting too graphic? They were a small rectangular trough mounted onto the floor and sported a handle on the wall to help you support yourself. Evidently, this is an old traditional style that's still in fashion in some places. The reason I bring the squat toilets up is that their existence means that some folks are confused about how to use what I would call a normal toilet. I know that because many toilets had a sign instructing the right and wrong way to sit on a toilet, where the one with the red X showed a person squatting on a normal toilet. Now, you'd think, or at least hope, I was done talking toilet tech, but you'd be wrong. We stayed at some super nice hotels. One that was let's see if I can pronounce it correctly, a ryokan, which is a traditional Japanese inn. The beds were up on shin-height platforms, but resting right on that platform. So you had to kind of climb onto the platform and crawl across it on your knees to get into bed. It had a beautiful outdoor bathtub on the balcony, and a glass wall of the shower revealed a view of the forest. The inn also had an outdoor hot mineral spring called an onsen, and that was delightful. But of course, it is the toilet tech I want to talk about. On the back of a traditional toilet, you have a large tank where water pours in after the toilet is flushed, and then that tank empties into the toilet bowl when flushed. The water that comes into that tank is normal, clean water, but as soon as it's in a toilet, we wouldn't consider it clean. But what if you had access to that water supply as it flowed in, but before it entered the toilet? That's exactly what the toilet at the Locan had. Where you would normally see the tank and, a closed lid, there was a faucet pouring clean water into a shallow sink. That meant you could wash your hands with the clean incoming toilet water and it would still be usable for flushing the toilet. I thought that was a brilliant reuse of water. In 2 of the hotel bathrooms, Steve noticed that the mirrors had rectangular heaters right in front of the sink so that when you took a hot shower that steamed up the rest of the mirror, right above the sink was a clear area for you to see your lovely reflection. I'm sure this is yet another waste of energy to have that heater on at all times, but I sure liked it. I'm just going to choose to assume that they were smart enough to have that heater only be triggered if the light switch was turned on. If you've ever had a very young child to take care of, and yet you find yourself in need to relieve yourself, you know that this creates a real problem. You can't fit a stroller into the toilet stall, and it's a real challenge to hold a baby while maneuvering your clothing in your body. In many of the bathrooms, there was a brilliant device to solve the problem. It was basically a baby seat bolted to the wall with a ring to go around the baby's waist with holes for their 2 legs. It was absolute genius. I want to know who's going to start installing these in all United States bathrooms. Now, this next one probably doesn't count as tech, but one sign really made me giggle in a Japanese bathroom. This particular bathroom was the one along the hiking trail on the island of Miyajima. The sign on the half-door gate said, "Please close the door to keep the deer out." It's just not something I see around where I live. Now, I had to ask NosillaCastaway David Bogdan about one thing I saw in many public bathrooms. It was a platform folded up against the wall with a sign showing you that you were supposed to rotate it down onto the ground. The mechanism wasn't mysterious, but I couldn't think for the life of me, what was this for? David explained that its purpose was to create a clean surface on... Starting to get a dry mouth. Dear, get using the squat toilet. Good point. What did I just say? For the life of me, what was this for? David explained that its purpose was to create a clean surface on which you could stand in your socks while changing clothes. I hadn't tracked where I saw these platforms, but I suspect they were in the many train stations, which would be a place where you might need to change your clothes. Speaking of clean floors, I'm sure you know that it's customary in Japan to remove your shoes when you go inside and put on some sort of slipper. What I didn't know before going to Japan was that they also have separate toilet shoes. Upon entering the bathroom, there are slippers you're supposed to change into from your house slippers. All right, that's another one that's not really tech, but I still thought it was interesting. With all of this high-tech equipment in public and private happy places, I was delighted by one facility that had a mechanical solution to the problem of knowing which bathroom stalls were occupied. Mechanically linked to the lever to lock the stall door were these little paper cardboard flags. One of them showed a blue circle for unoccupied, and the other one was a red X designating occupied. It was a simple mechanical solution, and it was so jankily done that I really think somebody had just done it to this one bathroom. All right, let's finally move on from toilet tech, but I thought that was interesting. Most sidewalks in the big cities had a yellow stripe in the middle that was maybe 10 inches wide. The stripe had 4 distinct ridges running parallel to the direction of the stripe. As NosillaCastaway and Japan resident Franco Carroll explained to me, they're for the blind. Think about how useful that would be to feel with your cane that you're walking in a straight line. It's genius. When something significant was coming up, like an intersection, the lines would run into a platform of bumps, also in bright yellow. When we walked into the train station in Tokyo, I noticed that the handrail had Braille on it. I guess it would be helpful to know which area you were entering, but the chaos of the Tokyo station was baffling even for the sighted. I mentioned that on the Shinkansen bullet trains... Wait, I didn't already talk about that, Steve. I reordered this.
Uh-oh.
Shoot. And you didn't catch it.
I don't look for ordering.
Uh-oh, neither did Sandy.
That's not in my purview.
Because you already knew about the Shinkansen. All right. In a little bit, I'm going to be talking about the Shinkansen, which are the bullet trains. But on those, you have to be ready to jump onto the train when the doors open because they don't wait for you. And the same is true when exiting the train. Unless you're getting off at the last stop, you have to stand up, gather your belongings, and wait by the door ready to rush out and let the new passengers on. These trains are quite smooth, but standing in a vehicle that's slowing down can be a little bit wobbly. The top of the seats have handles with which you can steady yourself, and each handle also has Braille on it. I presume that this Braille is identifying the seat row and the letter. Now, elevators in the US often have Braille on the panels, but I've always wondered how you'd know where the panel was in order to touch it. Well, in Japan, the same raised up pattern that was on the sidewalks was in front of the elevator's exterior buttons. Inside the elevators, the floors were identified with Braille on, next to the buttons, and there was even a horizontal pattern of elevator buttons so someone in a wheelchair would have easy access. When we were in Hiroshima, a gentleman in a wheelchair joined me in an elevator, and I couldn't resist the temptation to ask him, how well does this work for him? As he rolled out, he said that Japan was a very accessible country. I'm going to take that as a ringing endorsement. NosillaCastaway Michael Westbay also told us that his wife, who's in a wheelchair, has seen dramatic improvements in accessibility in Japan over the last 10 or 20 years. Things are getting really good. So that was fantastic to hear. Well, when a nerd... Let's see, I sort of feel like I need to... That's a good picture. Exactly what it's like. All right, let's talk about power. When a nerd goes on vacation, the first thing they pack is their electronics and power bricks to charge those devices. If you're off to a foreign country, you have to study and figure out what kind of adapter you're going to need to use for that country. Who can forget the time I asked Bart on Skype before a trip to visit him in Ireland whether the adapter I'd purchased would work in the UK, and he said, yes, it would. But I asked the wrong question because Ireland isn't in the UK. So he was telling me it was going to work fine when I went to visit Don McAllister, but it wasn't going to work well for him or for Ireland. But I asked the wrong question because guess what? Ireland isn't in the UK. He assumed I was asking because I was going to be visiting Don McAllister in the UK, but anyway, he helped us out and gave us other adapters when we got to Ireland. So before leaving for Japan, Steve looked up their power ports and found out they're exactly the same as the US. What he didn't realize, though, is they don't use a ground pin, so they only have 2 prongs. For most of our plugs, the things that we brought, that was fine, but he brought a power strip with 3 prongs, and he wasn't able to use it. All right, let's talk about trains. Steve and I live in Southern California where public transportation is pretty sparse. A high-speed rail system was first proposed in the 1990s to connect Los Angeles to San Francisco. And in 2008, California voters approved a $10 billion bond to fund that 800-mile train system. This project was then projected to cost $33 billion not in 202.
Probably 2020. You want me to fix that or look it up?
Well, yeah.
Are you looking up or you want me to?
Or it might be 2002.
Right.
First person to find the answer, let me know. Because, I don't want to keep going until, let's see. All right.
11.2 billion in 2023. Oh, no, it had been spent. Oh. Not finding an alignment.
Let's see. 3 billion. In 2008, with state voters, it was thought the total cost would run to 30 and be done by 2020. Shoot. I read it in Wikipedia. I know that. Anybody finding it?
I'm finding it, but not the same dates. They're not aligned with the dates.
Okay, let me see.
I mean, I see 93, but not 2000. So in 2023, the project had received 23 billion. Had received 23, but I'm not sure. Oh, projected to cost between 89 and 128 billion. Oh my gosh, that's February 24.
All right. let's change it, or I'm going to change it. I'll do the change. Trains. So, okay. Give me that last piece.
So February 2024, the project was estimated to cost between 89 and 128 billion.
By February 2024, the project was estimated to cost between
89 and 128 billion. With allowance for future inflation.
$128 billion. It's already been started, right?
Yeah, they've spent like 19 billion or something. They've spent some money.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. All right. Let's talk about trains. Steve and I live in Southern California, where public transportation is pretty sparse. A high-speed rail system was first proposed, and in 2008, California voters approved a $10 billion bond. Okay, there it is. Yeah, right. Bring the Japanese over to finish the job. They've begun construction, but by February 2024, this project was estimated to cost between $89 and $128 billion. I'm not terribly optimistic that we'll ever have a high-speed rail system in California. So it was a great delight riding the bullet trains in Japan. They're called Shinkansen, where Shin means new in Japanese and Kansen means main line. They called it the new main line when it was introduced in 1964 to connect Tokyo to Osaka, the very train we rode. Yes, 61 years ago, they had their first bullet train, and we're still waiting. The Shinkansen averages 125 miles an hour between the two cities, with peak speeds over 200 miles per hour. It was so much fun to ride. Now, the tricky bit is this train only stops for a couple of minutes, so like I said, you got to be in these starter blocks ready to leap onto the train before the doors close. Our guide, EK, told us that since we were such a large group, we needed to file into the center aisle as quickly as we could when we entered, not stopping at our assigned seats so we could ensure everyone had time to get on the train. Once riding, like I mentioned earlier, it's super smooth. Steve was at first concerned. He said, "Hey, there's no seatbelts." And then he said, "Well, these speeds, would a seatbelt save you?" We also rode the local express trains, which were pretty snappy and super smooth too. One thing that tickled us was that all of the trains were electric, and one we rode was hybrid electric. As I mentioned, Japan doesn't have much renewable energy, with a lot of it coming from coal, so electric is better than directly burning fossil fuels. The hybrid train, come on. The hybrid train. Look, it's just like your Prius, Sandy. The hybrid train, which does burn some fossil fuels, has this cool graphic that showed us when the engine was driving the wheels, when the battery was assisting by driving a motor to the wheels, and when we were slowing down, it would show energy flowing back into the battery with regenerative braking. We loved the trains. Now, for the most part, we were able to communicate in English while in Japan, but there were many times when the ability to read Japanese would have been handy. Steve and I both got hit with allergies when we first arrived, those darn cherry blossoms, and we went on the hunt for some Flonase nasal spray. We found a box that looked a lot like the distinctive coloring of the ones at home, but I wanted to be sure. I whipped open Google Translate on my phone, set it to translate from Japanese to English, and snapped a photo of the box. Since I had an active internet connection with my GigSky eSIM, it immediately translated the name to say Flonase and said directly affects the 3 major symptoms of hay fever. Winner! Now, we did use it from time to time, reading signs and other things. And it was a little bit weird because as you move the camera's view around, it would sometimes change the translation, but overall, it was still pretty useful. When we first arrived in Japan, as I looked at the view from our high-rise hotels, I noticed that many of the buildings across from us had red triangles on every, say, third window. I was curious what they were. At one point, I realized that the window out of which I was gazing had a triangle on it with the words in Japanese, the window right in front of me. I whipped out my trusty Google Translate and discovered that the triangle said Fire Brigade Entrance, and below that it said, "Please do not place anything near this area." Mystery solved. And just about every historical site we visited started with the explanation, you're viewing a replica because the original burned down in such and such a year. I mean, it was repetitive. Everywhere we went, they were saying that. Now, I noticed now that other fire-related things were sprinkled pretty much everywhere we went. In every hotel and historical site, we saw bright red lights with speakers where a fire alarm would blare should such an emergency arise. There were also green arrows with little green running person on them, prominently displayed showing you the safety exit. I had no doubt how to get out of these places. The most interesting tech we saw regarding escaping danger was a large metal box sitting on an upper story balcony of a building on the island of Miyajima near Hiroshima. We were curious what it was, and then we looked closely at the graphic description on the front of the box. The graphic showed a woman opening the top of the box, throwing a sandbag out of the window, flipping out a chute, and then climbing on top of the box and jumping into the chute to the ground. No details were given on what would happen when she hit the bottom, but I guess hitting the ground was better than burning alive. There's no closed parentheses on that. Let me fix that. Hate an open, no closed quotes, I should say. Hate a closed, not having a good closed quote. All right. Okay, this next thing definitely fits the category of tech. You know, most hotel, motel rooms in the U.S. have an HVAC system built in, say, 1962, with dials that are mysterious and often don't properly control the temperature. You may get lucky and have a small panel on the wall that controls temperature, but they never seem to work that well either. And then there's the curtains that never quite close to give you full darkness, so you have to resort to Dave Hamilton's life hack of using one of the hangers designed to hold pants to clip the two sides closed. If you haven't ever done that, it's a great life hack. Well, the coolest hotel we stayed at was called the 1000 Kyoto Hotel. Their mission is to build a sustainable world for the next 1,000 years. Had a lot of really cool features. That's the place where the toilet flushed when you walked out. But we were baffled by the simplest things, like how to control the lights and air conditioning in the room. On the bedside table, we found an iPad offering to let us control our room, and that solved all of the problems I've described. The iPad had a bespoke interface with obvious buttons to control the lights, the air conditioning, our do not disturb status, set an alarm, and close the blackout curtain. I'm not sure this is the best interface for mainstream folks, but it was great tech for two traveling geeks. Now, we saw more robots in Japan than we do at home. To be fair, we don't see any at home. In a few restaurants, we saw them delivering dirty dishes back to the kitchen, having been loaded by the human waitstaff. In the fancy 1000 Kyoto Hotel, Steve ordered some ice to be delivered to our room using the iPad, and a robot delivered it to him. But the best one was on our birthday. Yeah, we share the same birthday. A robot delivered 2 birthday cakes to our table and sang happy birthday to us. How fun is that? Now let's talk a little bit more about traffic stuff. I was intrigued by the walk, don't walk signs in Japan. There's 2 little figures, one above the other, where the top shows someone standing still and the bottom one shows someone walking. On either side of the figure, though, there are vertical countdown lights that show you either how long you have to wait until you be allowed to cross or how much time you have left to get across. They work quite well, and I'd love to see them instituted in the United States. Now, it would seem that there's not much room for advancement left in elevator and escalator technology, but we found a few cool elements in Japan. I know this one isn't earth-shattering, but the fact that we didn't figure it out for 2 days kind of made us laugh. Many of the fancy hotels restrict you to going only up to the floor of your room. To tell the elevator your floor, you were to tap your key on a little pad. In one hotel, we would tap the card and then press the button for our floor, but we finally realized it was automatically lighting up. We thought that was kind of cool. Steve's favorite elevator tech, though, was that the button to tell the elevator doors to close worked immediately. Maybe used to that where you live, but in the United States, those buttons are practically placebos. They just give you something to do while the elevator takes its own sweet time closing the door. But these worked every single time. He loved that button. Now, we saw cool escalator technology that I'd also like to see done worldwide. In the 1000 Kyoto Hotel, there was an escalator from the first to the second floor dining areas. In the 1000 I hit it a lot. Yeah. Impatient much, dear? In the 1000 Kyoto Hotel, there was an escalator from the first to the second floor where the dining areas were. One person in our party noticed that the escalator moved very slowly if no one was on them. But as soon as you got on, they would smoothly speed up. Think about how smart that is. When they're not in use, they burn far less energy moving the steps. You could have them shut off when nobody's on them, but that would create several problems. It would use a lot of energy to start them up each time, and it would possibly be a dangerous jolt to those who stepped on. And finally, how would you know they weren't just broken if they were standing still? Having it moving slowly, and then you get on and it speeds up so gently I didn't even notice, that was really cool. Now, everywhere you go in Japan, you'll see vending machines. Now, I don't mean like a single vending machine with just drinks from the Coca-Cola Corporation. I mean vast banks of them. We went on a walk around a palace, and there were 10 of them stacked side by side. They're massive. These things are everywhere. The other thing you see everywhere is convenience stores. I'm stretching the definition of tech here yet again, but it's very different from the U.S. Just about every other block had a 7-Eleven or a Family Mart where you could buy a fully pre-cooked meal and snacks and make a latte from a machine. Our favorite vending machine, though, was at a truck stop where EK let us go to the happy place. Steve and I discovered a vending machine that dispenses tasters of sake. You put money into one machine that dispensed tokens, sort of like Chuck E. Cheese. I bought the 3-token pack, and that let us taste 3 different sakes. There was an attendant there who helped me choose dry sakes, and they were all delicious. We didn't have time to buy any sake there, but it was still a really fun experience. Now let's talk about cars. In some of the smaller cities, we saw a lot of these wee tiny cars by different manufacturers, but they were all kind of in the same form factor. An example was the Honda N-Box. That's N, the letter like as in Nancy. That's a great name for them because these vehicles are basically a box with a large passenger compartment, but just a tiny bit of car out in front to house the engine. I sent a photo of the Honda N-Box to NosillaCast Michael Westbay, and he explained that you can tell the size of the engine by the color of the license plate. The photo I sent him showed a yellow license plate, which meant the engine is no bigger than 660 cc. As he explained, that means it's the equivalent of a mid-sized motorcycle engine. I was intrigued by these cars because they were so well suited for their job of carting humans around inside a city. They look quite roomy inside for the passengers while not requiring a giant gas-guzzling engine for city driving. On our last day, our lovely guide, EK, carefully deposited us onto the Shinkansen from Hiroshima to Shin, Osaka. Remember, Shin means new, so this is the new Osaka station. He had another guide meet us at the station and take us on another train to the airport in Osaka called Kansai International Airport. Kansai is unusual in that it sits on 2 man-made islands, built so the planes wouldn't bother people in the city. Sounds like a grand idea, but isn't some part of your brain sarcastically thinking, what could possibly go wrong? Well, you should listen to that part of your brain because the airport is sinking at an alarming rate. It opened in 1994 and had already sunk 8 meters, that's 26 feet, which is more than they expected it to drop over a 50-year period. To date, Kansai Airport has sunk 11.5 meters or 38 feet. In addition to that technical solution and ensuing problem, there's something else interesting about the Kansai Airport. In the United States, when you get to the airport, if you plan to check baggage, you go to the baggage drop-off for your airline. Well, our secondary guide had enthusiastically told us we would go to Section C to find Japan Airlines baggage drop-off. It was a massive airport, and after bidding our travel mates adieu, we managed to trudge our way to Section C, but we couldn't find JAL. I asked someone who worked for another airline at Section C, and she said, "It's not here yet." It's like, why? Is that like a language barrier problem? So I asked someone from another airline, and I got the same response. It's not here yet. We checked the big board ourselves, and it confirmed JAL should be at Section C. I'll cut through the mess and confusion and give you the punchline. Instead of every airline having a permanently designated baggage drop-off, all of the signage is temporary, and they rotate through the different airlines based on which ones have upcoming flights. We were at the airport more than 4 hours before our flight, so JAL had simply not yet been swapped in. By the way, I'm not talking about digital signage that gets changed. They had tall, square posts in front of each baggage bay with the name of the current airline on the 4 sides. I went up to one to test a theory. I wondered if the names were magnetic, and sure enough, they were. People go up and peel these signs off and slap on the new ones, and all of a sudden, JL can exist. We weren't very pleased with the situation, but I have to assume this allows them to use more efficient space utilization. Nope. We weren't very... I'm almost done, guys. Hang on. Whoops. No. Thank you, Kevin. We weren't very pleased with the situation to have to wait for it to exist, but I have to assume this allows for more efficient space utilization in a very crowded country. I had to tip my hat to their analog solution with magnetic names. I'm going to close this article about tech in Japan with the funniest thing we saw. We were in a store where we had to wait for an order to be filled, and there was a TV on to keep us entertained. The TV was playing the weather, and instead of a green screen display with the fancy weather patterns moving on it, it was a physical board with a guy moving little pieces of plastic around. He had like an arced one with little lines on it designating a weather front, and this plastic yellow disc that I kind of assume must mean sunny weather. If you're old enough to get this reference, it was kind of like color forms of our childhood. Now, Michael Westbay got to see this article, and he explained that the yellow disc was not the sun. Here's what he wrote to me. The kanji on the yellow circle in the weather news says yellow sand. This is a weather phenomenon that often comes over from China. I thought it was their pollution when I first heard of it, but it's actually dust from Chinese deserts that blows over, causing a yellow haze to settle over several cities on the West Coast. That's why he also held the circle over the West Coast when the front moved east. The funny thing is, this analog solution, these color forms with the guy moving pieces of plastic on a map, was the national weather. This wasn't some podunk local weather station. Well, it's hard to bottom line such a diverse set of technologies that we observe for an entire country, but the Shinkansen was definitely our favorite tech in Japan. My overall impression was that Japan is more tech forward than the US, and we could take a cue from much of their tech, except maybe those analog weather maps.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right. How long was that? Let's see, you're at 35. Where'd you start?
35 minus 7, 28.
28. Hey, look at you doing your 5s and 8s and 7s.
I know. It had an 8 in it, huh? Right?
Well done.
Why does it say new mentions? Somebody must have said my name. New unreads. Well, I suspect so. I've been working here. All right. Don't need that. Let's go back here. And what do we have next?
We're on Gardena.
This one's long. Let's see.
Well, but you're not gonna read it. Play it.
I'm not going to read it.
This is a long one, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh. Forgot my keystrokes. Paste. This is going to be robots to mow your lawn. I'm not doing Chef Man this week, right?
Right.
So I got to move that.
That's the last one. By the way, kids, that'll be the last CES interview. And it'll be
we're going to start up CSUN next
Number
week.
54. 54, which is a record for us.
Yeah. Reminds me, I need to talk to you about what I'm going to be on the Double Tap podcast. It might be tomorrow. It's soon. To talk about CSUN. So we tell them it was a good time to have me on since we're finally starting our CSUN coverage.
Yeah.
Let's see. I nearly killed myself tripping over a fake plant in the Gardena booth, and I'm here with... I don't know why I said that.
You can tell you're at the end of your interviews because your voice is getting a little croaky and, and you're tripping over plants.
Actually, I should mention that that's not on the right track either. It's supposed to be down here. I think it can start a little bit earlier. I nearly killed myself. All right. So that was interview number 53 from CES. And as Steve pointed out, you can tell we're getting towards the end because my voice is so gravelly. 53 interviews so far, which means there's only one left, and we can finally start our CSUN interviews for you. All right. So we're up to 48 minutes, and now I'm going to add an hour show to the end of it. All right. And cha-ching, cha-ching. All right. Interviews for you. Well, our hero of the week is longtime NosillaCast and longtime supporter, George from Tulsa. Every once in a while, he goes to podfeed.com/PayPal, and he just drops me some money, but he always adds a funny little message. This time it was, weather report from Tulsa. I'm not saying I always understand his funny little messages, but I always enjoy them. Thanks, George, for your years of support and friendship and silly pictures. All right. Intro. Here we go. And then we're going to drop in. Hopefully I can find seat yet. Oh, yeah, I got to do this again, don't I? Oh, those are reversed. Let me fix that. He's down here, and I'm up here. And should I save? Yes, and I should do a chapter mark. On answer engines. Yeah, we had 2 chitsats this week since I reused the one from last week from Bart. Okay, got my chapter mark in because Kevin said to. And we got a good plank out of Adam this week. I'll have to play it for Steve. Gets that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, ready, Steve? Ready? Are you listening?
Ready.
Blink.
Very nice.
Well, it's that time of the... Let's see how this lined up. Well,
that was
that time of... Enthusiasm?
Yes.
Whoop. Oh, get rid of that one. Got them both off right here. And then move this one straight up. And then pick both of those. Move them over here. Maybe right there. Let's see how that sounds. Support and friendship and silly. For April 23rd, 2025. And friendship and silly pictures. Well, it's too long. Steve likes it shorter than that. Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. This is episode number 812 for Aging, because you're only 28, right?
29, but who's counting? I mean, right? It is one of those shocking numbers.
That's huge. All right. I want to check something. I'm going to go ahead and finish this.
What was 35 years? That Tidbits?
Tidbits has been going for 35 years.
Makes 20 look like a picnic.
Mm-hmm.
35
yeah, Adam X says, hold my beer.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. You probably in another month.
Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
He's so much fun. I'm so glad he loves doing this. I love talking to him. Yeah, I'm all proud of this 20 years, and Adam X says, hold my beer. Anyway, that's going to wind us up for this week. Did you know you can email me at allison@podfeed.com anytime you like? You got a question or suggestion, just send it on over. Remember, everything good starts with podfeed.com. You can follow me on Mastodon at podfeed.com/Mastodon. If you want to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you can go to podfeed.com/YouTube. And if you want to join the conversation, you can join our Slack community at podfeed.com/Slack, where you talk to me and all of the other lovely NosillaCastaways. Well, all of them that are there. You can support the show at podfeed.com/Patreon or with a one-time donation at podfeed.com/donate, where you can use Apple Pay or any credit card. Or you can use podfeed.com/PayPal like George from Tulsa did this week. So many great ways to do it. And don't forget to go get your 20th anniversary shirt at podfeed.com/shop. And if you want to join in the fun of the live show, come next week for the 20th anniversary show over at podfeed.com/live on Sunday nights at 5 p.m. Pacific time, and join the friendly and enthusiastic NosillaCastaways. Thanks for listening and stay subscribed.
Good job.
Did everybody catch that we will not have a live show on the 18th? No live show on the 18th. Clap, 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 clap. Everybody hear that? No live show on the 18th.
Yep.
And stay subscribed. I hear and obey.
I've got my count.
All right, good. Oh, you do. You've already done your count.
I beat you.
All right. Let's see what I got.
1, 2, 3.
6.
6 is right.
I can actually do it. I may still pop in because you'll be on jet lag. Okay. Well, Steve usually checks in, but we thought about trying to do the show from Houston, but with the time change, it's 7 o'clock, and the baby Teddy goes to bed at like 6:30, and then there's bath time at 6 o'clock, and then Kenny has special time at 7 o'clock. So it's too much. We're not going to do it.
Sutter joined us.
Sutter, you just got here? Oh man,
He may have been here the whole time.
I don't see him.
Pima and RB.
Pim and RB. Gracie hears. Oh, he's in the sidebar. He's not in live show listen. Well, if you just got here, you just missed it. But next week is the 20th anniversary show. Oh, you were here, just not logged in.
Just not logged in. All right. Well, glad you were here.
Well, that's sort of like the opposite of Kevin. You were here, but not making any noise. So that's good.
What, Kevin's not here and makes noise? I don't get
Maybe?
it.
No, it's John who's not here and makes noise.
Oh, okay.
John's not listening.
He's Sutter's gonna have a sake tonight.
Oh, we can do that.
We've got some pretty fancy sakes that
We
came
got a
back
lemon
with us.
sake and one that our buddy Ron brought us before we left, so we didn't have to bring it home. Got some Japanese whiskey. Talking to you, Ed.
And this does not taste like peanut butter.
It doesn't. It has no peanut butter in this whiskey. I discovered that I actually really like single malt Scotch. That was a real surprise. Rice paper whiskey, I guess. I don't know what it's made out of. You gonna bring that to Macstock to share? Nope.
Nope.
Well, I think I'm done. I'm going to do a little check of something. But other than that, I think I'm good to go. So see you next week for the live show. We're not going to do a whole lot of stuff, but, bring your party attitude. That's the only thing I ask. So
We'll bring ours.
all righty. We'll see you, everybody. See you next week.